Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Palmetto Sports Daily. We've got a full house today. We've got Teagan Brown down in Myrtle Beach. We also have Kevin Bilodeau in Charleston and Carmine Teagan just off the plane from New York City, where he was watching the Clemson basketball team in a thrilling game. We'll talk more about that in a second. Right now, we're going to talk some college football. It looks like tomorrow it will become official. The Gamecocks will have their new offensive coordinator. Board of Trustees meeting has been called for Thursday morning at 9 a.m. And at that time, we expect Nelson Browse, the TCU offensive coordinator, to become the Gamecocks' new OC. Also, they will be looking to approve contracts for Stan Drayton as running backs coach. He's currently at Penn State. And Randy Clements as offensive line coach, who is also at TCU. There's some video of Browse when he was at Baylor working with his dad. And for 2 years there, they had an offense that produced over 600 yards per game. Now, this season, the TCU offense ranked 30th nationally, averaging 425 yards per game. They averaged just under 293 yards passing per game. TCU is tied for 43rd in scoring average, just under 31 points a game. And if he can improve a Gamecock offense that is 106 in total offense, 102nd in scoring with an average of slightly under 23 points per game, that would be really, let's just say, Gamecock fans would consider it a blessing. So we'll find out tomorrow, 9 o'clock, if the Kendall Browse era will kick off or not. And barring any late-minute, snags, it should come off smoothly as possible. They'll schedule a press conference at some time. We'll find out, too. TCU is in a bowl. If those two guys are going to stay and help them with the bowl or go back and forth for a bit or just cut their ties and come to Columbia immediately to get the Gamecocks turned around. Kevin?
Yeah, I think the biggest question that pops up for me immediately is, what does Lenora Sellers think of this hire? Is he in favor of Kendall Browse coming aboard, or is this going to get him upset and push him towards the transfer portal or maybe the NFL draft? We know Landon Duckworth, the signee from last week, one of the top quarterback prospects in the country, he seems to be pretty excited. He tweeted out that Browse was one of the first coaches that reached out to him to recruit him. So it seems like he is very much in favor of this move. But I think as far as next year goes, the question is what Sellers think of this move and how is this going to affect his progression as a quarterback if he decides to come back, Carmine?
Yeah, very interesting, and a lot of power with these college football stars now also in these hires, too. They're almost like, definitely they should be considered in the process of who gets hired if they're such a big talent. But it reminds me of like LeBron James in the NBA, bringing in a coach like J.J. Redick on the LA Lakers. You know, these big-time players, they have to have a say in it. But speaking of the NFL draft, Kevin, as you mentioned, another Clemson star has declared for the NFL draft, and that is edge rusher defensive end T.J. Parker. He is heading to the NFL, graduated in just 3 years, similar to another star defensive lineman, Peter Woods, who also recently declared for the NFL draft this week, too. And you have Avion Terrell, who declared as well, the star defensive back. Antonio Williams, also going to the NFL, the star wide receiver, all-conference from Irmo. So this will be like a new-look Clemson team, kind of opposite of what we saw last season when they returned 16 players. Of course, it didn't work out as they thought when they came in with that top 5 ranking. But this year, already by the math, they can't really possibly return that many this next season. But T.J. Parker, I'm interested where you guys think he might be drafted because, you know, coming into this year, he's a first-round projected pick, but to start the season, he was a projected maybe a top 5 and definitely a top 10 pick. But in my estimation, and just the stats prove it, really, it's not my estimation at all, but last season, if you look at it, and what earned him a top draft ranking coming into this season, 11 sacks last year in his sophomore season, 57 total tackles, and 34 solo tackles. And then this season, so you go from 57 tackles in his sophomore season to just 37 tackles this season, and you go from 11 sacks last season to only 5 sacks this season. And he's lucky to even have that number because 3 of those sacks were in the Palmetto Bowl against the Gamecocks. So he only had 2 sacks all season leading into that. And if you're a top 10, definitely a first-round projected edge rusher, those aren't really the numbers, Teagan, that illustrate that you should be picked there. So I'm interested to see maybe if he drops in the draft. I mean, of course, I'm rooting for the best for the guy. Seems like a great young man, recently got married, great teammate by all accounts. But the numbers have gone down significantly from last season, Teagan.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the question of if teams look at just the considerations with Clemson this year and how they performed, and then how they look at him with that. You know, would he have been able to do more if Clemson had performed to the level that we kind of all expected them to perform to before the season started? So I don't know necessarily where he's going to land, but I would not be surprised if he drops further into the first round or maybe even early in that second round, just because if you're an NFL team and you want your best guy, you want those good numbers from this season. You want a justification to your fans about why you're drafting this guy and why he can do something for you, Rick.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about it too much. Carmine, has he been injured? Could that have played a factor in it?
Not that I know of. I mean, I don't think any more than anybody else was battling through injuries. But to that point, Rick, some other factors that might have, been a factor here too is that when you come off an 11 sack and 57 tackle season that he did as a sophomore, Kevin, I'm sure, I haven't really dissected the tape that closely, but I'm sure he was seeing more double teams, more attention, maybe a running back out of the backfield hitting him. So you have to consider that too, because on the other side, Will Held, his fellow defensive end, had a very successful season coming in from Purdue. So he was probably seeing less blocking, and TJ Parker, you'd have to assume, taking a lot of the attention away.
Yeah, and he's also a guy you could see going into the combine and just putting up huge numbers, whether it's in the 40 or the strength categories, and just really catching some teams' attention. And they could look at his sophomore numbers and say, this is the guy we see, and just consider the junior year kind of a blip on the radar, and just really focus on when he was good and, talk themselves into put him in the top 10. I still expect him to go top half of the first round and once the draft gets going.
Yeah, I harken back to Jadeveon Clowney after his sophomore season and the big hit that he had in the Outback Bowl. And some people were suggesting that, hey, he should just sit out his third year, don't play at all, don't risk injury. He played. He suffered through some bumps and bruises. His numbers weren't quite as good. But just like you say, Kevin, you go to the combine, and if you had watched him over the years, you knew what an absolute physical freak he was. And so, yeah, he was the number 1 overall pick. So I expect Parker to also be a very high draft pick.
I agree 100%. And there's always, we say it all the time, you only need one team to fall in love with a guy. And one team is going to see what he does in the combine, and one team's going to look back on those sophomore stats, and they're going to be really excited about bringing that guy in next season. We're just getting going here on Palmetto Sports Daily. We'll be back right after this.
Welcome back, and I just fulfilled my New York State duty by covering Clemson men's basketball, but now back for the Palmetto State duty here on Palmetto Sports Daily, because what a game we witnessed just yesterday at Madison Square Garden, the first time the Tigers had played there in more than a decade, and unfortunately got their hearts broken at the buzzer by BYU hitting a three-pointer as the buzzer sounded to lose 67-64. The Tigers, guys, incredible start to the game. That first half was one of the best ever that we've seen under Brad Brownell, and here's some great video of Madison Square Garden that I shot, so if you have any critiques, let me know. But no, it was a great first half. The Tigers going on a 21-0 run against 10th-ranked BYU, and it seemed too good to be true, and unfortunately in the second half it was. Clemson went up 22 points, and then BYU came back and won their largest second-half comeback in school history to erase that 22-point deficit. In fact, they went up by 5 points, And then the Tigers had a comeback to the comeback with just 20 seconds left. Clemson was down by 5, and Dylan Hunter scored 5 unanswered points, a three-pointer, and then a leaning runner off the backboard to tie the game. But then 10th-ranked BYU hit that buzzer beater to win the game, and here's reaction from Coach Brownell, Dylan Hunter about that comeback, and a fan making the trip to New York City.
We're a resilient group. We're built on toughness and grit, so we know the game's never over. And the guys also believe it as well. Coach instills that in practice. So we believe, no lead is saved, no game is over. So we're going to fight until the end.
We certainly had a couple bad turnovers. We had a couple bad shots. We looked hurried a couple times, no question. We lost our flow. And a lot of that's a credit to BYU. This is a completely new group for us. We're still trying to figure out, sometimes at the end of games, who do we trust? In terms of competitive fight and spirit, really proud of my team.
Madison Square Garden's been at the top of my bucket list since I've been 10 years old. So just being able to come see Clemson play a game here, and we fought hard. We lost at the end in a nail biter. And I'm proud to say I'm a Clemson fan and can watch them play basketball every time because they got grit and show a lot.
And just a couple final notes on that game. The possible number 1 pick in the upcoming NBA draft, A.J. DeBonsa, went bananas in the second half. He actually outscored Clemson himself, 22 points by A.J. to 21 for Clemson in the second half. And my gosh, what a performance from him. 28 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, including several lobs to the big man Keita, which were thunderous dunks and really stole the momentum at the end, even though the Tigers did come back. But Rick, this Tigers team is close to being really good like they've been the past few years under Brownell, making the Elite Eight, then setting the program record for single season wins with 27, going 18-2 in the ACC last year, even though they have 10 new players. But they're almost rounding the corner because they just lost at the very end to top 15 teams in Alabama, at Alabama and Tuscaloosa, and almost taking down 10th-ranked BYU. But, hey, they should be included in the program's elite, as evidenced by being invited as one of just 4 teams to the Jimmy V Classic here.
Carmine, that was a really exciting game, but they can't blow a 22-point second-half lead. It reminds me of what happened to Gamecock football at Texas A&M when they were up 30-3 at the half. Clemson had a 10-minute stretch where they scored only 3 points. They were outscored 20-3, and that just can't happen. Or else they're going to have the reputation, you mentioned the close games they've had, of being good enough to put a scare into the good teams, but they can't close the deal, and they need to get it together before they dive into ACC play. But, boy, what a game. Teagan?
Yeah, I think there were a lot of positives to take away from Clemson's performance last night, but exactly right, Rick. If they can't get over the hump with these top teams, but they want to be one of those top programs, and, Brad Brownell has done a really good job over these past few years just elevating Clemson men's basketball, but they have to figure out before they get into conference play, no matter what they did there last year, how to get these new players integrated into everything and make the chemistry work and all of that, Carmine, Kevin.
Yeah, the result itself doesn't bother me so much. I think if you had asked us yesterday afternoon, Clemson's going to lose by 3 to the 10th-ranked team in the country, I think pretty much everyone would have taken that result for the Tigers. The thing I'm worried about as far as Clemson goes, I don't think they have a guy. When you're in the midst of getting beaten, in a 15-0, 20-0 run, you got to have a guy who steps up and is just going to make a basket and bring the run to a halt and just kind of reset everything. Dylan Hunter might be close to that, but I don't think he's there just yet. And I think that's the biggest thing they've got to figure out before they get into ACC play, which is, not just a couple of weeks away at this point. I do want to mention the Citadel getting back in the win column last night, breaking a losing streak they had as they picked up a 98-73 victory over Southern Wesleyan last last night. That improves them to 3-7 on the season. The problem for the Bulldogs, all 3 of those wins have come against non-Division I teams so far this year. They have not beaten a Division I team yet so far this season, but they did get back in the win column. That itself is a good thing. Dante Kearse had a big night for the Bulldogs, went 5 of 8 from three-pointer land, had 15 points, led the team with 6 rebounds as well. So some good things for the Bulldogs, but they've got to turn things around too, because I think that's the last non-D1 team they're going to have on their schedule as they get ready to start SoCon play in less than 2 weeks. But there you see Dante Kearse hitting a bunch of 3. What's that about Santa, Nick? Santa was at the game, yes, as you saw the video. The Bulldogs were on the nice list for last night at least.
Oh.
I can't think of a better date night than McAllister Fieldhouse.
Exactly.
All right. We've got more coming up on Palmetto Sports Daily coming up right after this.
Welcome back, and we were talking about Santa and Mrs. Claus at the Citadel and the fact that the Citadel is on the nice list, but I think the Furman Paladins men's soccer team might be on the naughty list because they've been breaking opponents' hearts all NCAA tournament, guys. They're headed all the way to the College Cup, which is basically the Final Four for men's soccer in Cary, North Carolina. They're taking on the Washington Huskies, and it's been some heart-pounding action for the Paladins. Here's their welcome back from their success in the West Coast against Portland, where I mentioned they're breaking opponents' hearts. They beat Portland 1-0 in the Elite Eight. They beat Hofstra in their last home game of the season in penalty kicks, 5-4, and they beat Western Michigan in the game before that, also at home for Furman, 1-0. So all 3 of their NCAA tournament games have told me that they're on the naughty list because they're breaking the opponent's hearts, winning by 1 goal each in every single one of those games. But hey, all that matters is the final result. And Doug Allison, you see the head coach, in his 31st and final year, making his first trip to the College Cup as one of the 4 teams remaining in college soccer for the men. Here is a player and Coach Allison talking about the meaning of this moment.
But we have a shirt. One last ride. It means so much to everyone here, to all the seniors and everyone that's just known him for such a long time. He's such a big reason why I'm here, such a reason that I'm a part of it. It's a great culture. It's a great environment to be around. So it means so much for us to be here today and having the support from everyone, the alumni and the fans, to come down and just play in these final moments for him. It means so much to us.
It's definitely big time. It's sold out too. I think there's 10,500 seats been sold out, and let's keep the guys there. I'm going to keep them as low as possible, as down to earth as possible, and then we're going to play the game. But Washington's a really good team, and so are our guys. They've really come together as a team. But in my last year, I'm just so proud of the kids.
And guys, a lot of fans of the Palmetto State sports, a lot of our viewers of Palmetto Sports Daily, I'm sure, a little disheartened about the seasons for Clemson football, South Carolina Gamecocks football, but how about some of these teams that everybody might not be paying attention to, but their fans certainly support, like Paladins men's soccer in the College Cup. You got South Carolina State in the Celebration Bowl. They're going for a championship. You got Newberry College in the Division II semifinals. So, Kevin, we got some great stuff to follow. And just a final note on Furman is that they're playing their Final Four game 6 o'clock Friday against Washington. If they win that one, they'll be playing for a national championship on Monday.
Carmine, has anyone at the school made an offer to coach and tried to talk him out of this retirement and say, let's maybe run this back for 1 or 2 more years after this? Because things seem to be going pretty well.
Yeah, not yet, but it's funny you said that because there are 5 starters on this team that are freshmen. So that would be a great offer. Hey, coach, we're right there. We're knocking at the door. We got great talent that's continuing to develop. And I'm sure Furman wouldn't be upset if Doug Allison decided to stay. But all these T-shirts are already made. And how about if he can go out on top in his 31st and final year? We'll have our final block of the show right after this.
Welcome back into Palmetto Sports Daily. You know, we talk a lot on this show about competition. You know, somebody wanting to win the game and come out on top. But every once in a while, there's an overlap with sports and then also a good cause, because we've got the Myrtle Beach Fire Department hosting their annual charity hockey game where the money goes to MBFD Cares. It's a nonprofit where they cover cancer screenings for firefighters because it is a very big hazard in the job. So this year, the firefighters are playing against Coastal Carolina, their men's hockey club team. There they are. They did a cool photo shoot last week, you know, at the fire station, took the fire trucks out and took pictures and that. So this will be a game in the Florence Center. So, you know, the Myrtle Beach folks will have to take a drive. But look at that. That's one of my favorite pictures, you know, staging a fight, because you know, hockey is all about fighting. You go to a game, you see a ton of them. Are we going to see a fight in this one?
All about
I don't know, guys. But I did ask the captain of the firefighters just about, you know, raising money for this good cause and everything around it. So here he is talking about the matchup.
It's not a win or a loss on either of our record. It's just going to be a fun game. We're going to go out there and have a lot of fun. We're going to be interacting with the crowd. There's going to be things going on in between the periods. We'll do like some fundraising activities, things like that. So it'll definitely be a high energy game and definitely be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm really hoping for a lot of energy in this one, a lot of entertainment. Oh, speaking of entertainment, Carmine is ready to get out there. He's ready to put on his skates, see a fight. Carmine, who do you think is going to win in this one? Who do you think is going to fight for it?
You know what they should do? It's all about the charity. You got to fight if you want people to donate the entertainment value, Rick. So if they need me to come in as a ringer, you know my training for my Louisville trip, like Ali, I'm ready to go, Rick.
Carmine, your technique looks like you're ringing the bell for the Salvation Army. Stick to that, pal. Or if you're in a fight, wear your glasses, okay? Don't hit a guy with glasses. That's your only hope. All right, we're done. We'll be back tomorrow. Carmine, forget it.